SQA Higher Maths 2022 Paper 1 Question 3 was a function h is defined as h of x equals 4 plus a third of x, where x is a member of the real numbers, and find the inverse function h to the negative 1x. And this is worth 3 marks. This one is a couple of methods you could use, so I'll go through both methods in case you used an alternative method or prefer an alternative method. So let's look at method 1. Let's call it here method 1. For method 1, to get your first mark, you would say that h of the inverse function of x equals x. You can get a mark for knowing that if you take h of the inverse, the composite function, you always get the answer x. So there's 1 mark there just for writing that down. Then for your second mark, substituting into h, we get 4 plus 1/3. h to the minus 1 of x, and that still equals x. So there's your second mark if you're using composite functions. And then for your third mark, the inverse function, the subject of that. So we'll need to do some work on that first of all. So we've got 1/3 of the inverse function equals x, take away 4, times and through by 3 then. The inverse function equals 3 times the whole of x minus 4. And we can leave it in that form to get your final mark, or you could have went on and expanded the brackets, but there's no need to do that. So there's your first method. And let's go through method 2 for the same question. Okay, so method 2 is much more common, I've seen in the high schools used, is where you say that y equals h of x. And that implies that x equals the inverse function of y. In other words, writing y equals the inverse the function. If you make x the subject, that gives you the inverse function. Okay, so we have got y equals 4 plus a third x in this case, and then we would get a mark for starting to rearrange this. So you could get a mark for doing y minus 4 equals a third x. That's a mark there. Or alternatively, if you prefer to multiply through by 3 first, or you could have 3y equals 12 plus x. If that's the way you prefer to go, I would do it the first way, but that's the alternative way. Continuing on with the way that I've done it, that's your first mark, then expressing x, making x a subject. So from here, we're going to times through by 3. So we've got 3y minus 4 equals x, or x equals 3y minus 4. There's your second mark there. And then you have to explicitly state what the inverse function is to get your final mark. So you have to then say that your inverse function of y is equal to 3y minus 4. And so, for your final mark, your inverse function of x must be 3x minus 4. And there's our final mark there. Now, just a little notes on like where would the SQA say you can't get marks. Let's look at method 2 to start with since we're on it. We can start off just by writing this, and you will get your first mark. If you forgot to write this, we would not take a mark off. Similarly, at mark 3, they would accept h inverse function of x is 3x to the minus 4 without you writing this statement first. So if you just jump straight from here to here, that would be fine also. Also, what you would actually get a mark for if you had made a mistake is if you had kept it as y instead of x, we would be quite happy with that and give you the mark anyway, the benefit of the doubt. What we would not allow you to get a mark for, to be very clear though, is if you look y equals 3 bracket x minus 4. You have to state it's an inverse function h minus 1. And if you had actually done all this for some reason and not shown any working, not sure why you'd do that, but if you did in this case, we would actually give you 3 out of 3 and give you a benefit of the doubt on this question. For method 1, if you go 4 plus a third h to the minus 1, if you just jump straight to here, we would give you both marks. We'd be fine with that. as well. And of course, again, if you just jump straight to here and just got the answer, we'll give you all 3 marks. So there's your allocations of marks for this question. Method 1 and method 2.